in his back. And then he missed another week with an ankle sprain after he returned in June. So Clevenger's injury, combined with Corey Kluber's broken arm and Carlos Carrasco's leukemia, holy mackerel. I have absolutely no doubts that Cleveland's going to trade Brad Hand. I have absolutely no doubts that Cleveland is going to trade Brad Hand. That's right. I didn't believe at the beginning that the Indians were really hell-bent on winning this season. I don't believe so. Same way they did. Although this year they got Reyes and they got, what's his name? Your boy who signed the other day. Come on, Andrea, help me out. Who's the guy that hit the home? Oh, Santana. Domingo Santana. So you get two fine outfielders there. In the corner, one of them is going to be a DH, okay? Because defensively, you can't have Santana and Reyes both in the same outfield at the same time. It's just no way to do it. So I really believe that it's going to be that. And the other thing is that, but home runs, yeah, they're going to hit home runs. They're going to hit a lot of home runs. There's no question. So, all right, so we're expecting, and the other guy, Archie Bradley. Archie Bradley. Well, let's get back to, before we go to Archie Bradley, let's get back to Clevenger, because that's a pretty big deal. So, Plutko, I think Plutko is going to be a big factor here, but here's what this means. And Andy brought it out on Sirius Radio yesterday. Great point that Andrea made. The big player, because of Clevenger's injury, could be Francisco Lindor, right? Andy pointed it out. This could be enough to say for Cleveland, okay, we're out of it this year. I mean, especially if Carrasco, his health, look, if his health disappoints him, it's going to be pretty bad. So Adam Plutko, who is out of minor league options, he looks good. He's in a good position for a rotation spot. Last year's numbers were not spectacular, but Plutko did put together a stretch of 10 starts from late July through September that included a 3.5 ERA. And he got better than 5 innings per start. So expect Plutko to get every opportunity to prove himself in Cactus League. And, of course, along with Rodriguez, it was Plesac and Savali who stepped in to really rescue Cleveland last year. So Plesac had a 3.81 and 21, struck out 88 and 115. But according to Erwin Zwilling, my partner, he likes Plesac a lot. Now, here's the sleeper for the Cleveland rotation, and I talked about him on Sunday. Jeffrey Rodriguez showed flashes of brilliance last year. Etch this name in your kitchen table. Rodriguez, 98-mile-an-hour fastball in 10 appearances. He had 8 starts. Could end up in the bullpen, depending upon the club's needs. Could end up in the bullpen. Okay? So keep an eye on that guy. Also, Tristan McKenzie, who was once ranked the Indians' #1 prospect. Phil Chaplin, what do you think of Tristan McKenzie? He's taken part in in his first big league spring camp. He was added to the 40-man roster, so he wouldn't go on the Rule 5. But it's really Francisco Lindor, and they're calling it a doomsday scenario. Now they have look, you can't trade Lindor. You can't even trade Arenado, who says he really wants out because he wants to experience free agency. But now you have a situation where you're calling it doomsday. Absolute doomsday. Okay? So we like that, right? Doomsday for the Cleveland Indians. Emmanuel Clase, if they wind up trading Brad Hand, and they could wind up trading Brad Hand. Emmanuel Clase. Now I like this kid, and Terry Francona came up with a quote explaining who this guy is. He says that Emmanuel Class, I'm going to quote him, Emmanuel Clase throws 100-mile-an-hour bowling ball. That's pretty good. Now, we also know about the great strikeout rate of James Karinchak. So it could be either Karinchak or Emmanuel Clase. They got some big, with Jeffrey Rodriguez in the bullpen. Don't forget, Dominic Leone is still there, Adam Simber. So they got, Nick Wingren. But here's the thing. Emmanuel Clase throws a 100-mile-an-hour bowling ball. Karinchak with a fantastic strikeout rate. If you don't know him, it's Karinchak. So just pay attention to these guys. We're always looking for that closer, right? Always looking for the closer. So keep an eye on Karinchak and keep an eye on Clase. I would definitely draft those guys if I'm in a keeper league. Yep, I'm in a keeper league, and I also want these guys for just in case. Instead of spending money on, look, if I'm drafting Brad Hand and it costs me, severe value, I'm going to follow up with one. At this point, I just can't tell. So keep an eye in spring training. Whichever guy comes in, like in the second or the third inning, that's the guy you want. Okay? Whoever comes in the second or the third inning, that's the guy you want. You got that? Okay. Let's take a look now at Archie Bradley. Archie Bradley. Torey Lovella actually stopped short, just a little short, of naming Archie Bradley as closer. Okay? But he finished last season as the closer. He was very impressive in the season's final 3 months. Hello, you okay? Oh, I hear Andy walking around upstairs and it scares me, all right? So from June 26th to the end of the year, this is Bradley. And a lot of us don't have a lot of confidence in Archie Bradley. But from June 26th through the end of the year, Archie Bradley had a 1.4 ERA, 18 saves, and 19 chances. That means he enters camp as the closer, okay? So he's not worried about his role. He says, I don't care, here's a guy, look, he says, all I want to do is win. That's pretty freaking good, right? All I want to do is win. All right, so don't forget, Class A, who was acquired with Delino DeShields in November in the Corey Kluber trade, throwing 100-mile-an-hour bowling balls. He turns 22. He looks easy in throwing 100 miles an hour. Okay? So, we'll see how this works out. We'll see how this all works out. It's going to be pretty interesting to see. There's a lot of stuff to go over. I just want to thank you all for being here. The draft guide is selling like hotcakes. When's the last time you bought a hot cake? Well, it's probably been a while since you bought a hot cake. So do me a favor. Get the draft guide and Legend 20... what is it? I forget. All right. Legend... What is it? 2020. That's the discount code, if you want a discount. No big deals. Only a couple of bucks. But the draft guide is really worth it. And don't forget, on Sunday, Sirius 210, XM87, we'll be back next week. We had Craig Mish as our guest this weekend. And if you have a chance, if you have Sirius Radio, you can get it on demand. Just punch up my name or punch up Andrew's name or the Lady in the Legend. Looking further into Danny Santana, just for a second, this is an interesting note. He had a .324 on-base percentage on the season. That's average. But after reaching a 2-1 count, he had a .526 on-base percentage. That's the best in the major leagues. So when Danny Santana has a 2-1 count, you want to make a bet with your neighbor who he was watching the game with, it's a good bet. And look, and I'm looking at A.J. Puck. And by the way, Puck and Luzardo, as I mentioned, will not have any restrictions, but they're going to be watched. There are people, after watching A.J. Puck, I am comparing him to Randy Johnson, okay? And he was even asked if he grew up watching Randy Johnson, and he did, and he met him. So how about that? So Randy Johnson, that's a comp. Randy Johnson is my comp to A.J. Puck. Whoo! Cole Hamels. He was the Braves' lone injury as they've opened camp for 4 days ago. He was a free agent. He has been back home in Texas meeting with a doctor, and he's got this irritation in his arm, but it's calming down. The Braves will evaluate him in 3 weeks, but Hamels will miss the start of the regular season, even if he's cleared to ramp it up. He's still going to miss it. And also, some good news, okay? Chris Sale says he's all good. So, and still, they're going to take it easy with him. Doesn't mean he's going to pitch a lot in the spring. If you follow Chris Sale at all, you know he doesn't pitch a lot in the spring, okay? So, Chris Sale, he's okay. He had walking pneumonia. Walking pneumonia. Just got a note from Kevin who says, last-minute appointment, won't be able to follow Arnie. Okay, so Arnie's on next. And then Kevin will not make it today, but maybe Kevin will be on tonight or something, whatever he wants. Okay, we want Kevin. All right, now this Freddy Peralta. I mean, Freddy Peralta. There's no better way to like a player than to find out that he's got a new pitch. And that's what happened to Freddy Peralta. Who's Freddy Peralta? Why are we talking about Freddy Peralta? His first 55 appearances, he made 22 starts in the majors, and it was an up and down roller coaster, 4.7 ERA. He's primarily a fastball pitcher who mixed in an occasional curve, but Freddy Peralta himself decided it was time to go back to the slider he used in the minors, and then he abandoned it for whatever reason. So he met with former pitcher Carlos Villanueva, who's now a special assistant, and so here's what he did. Peralta was able to get immediate results. He pitched in the Dominican Winter League, and guess what he did? This is Freddy Peralta. So another guy, etching your kitchen table, good late-round pick. Freddy Peralta dominated opponents. He allowed only 6 hits, 3 walks in 20 innings, and 34 strikeouts. So any pitcher that adds a new pitch, and it shows that it's working, you really have to watch that pitcher. Okay, all right. So he's added that new pitch. He's thrown it in games, and he's ahead of schedule. So how about that, Freddy Peralta? Just a name that you want to be careful of, and you want to watch Freddy Peralta. Okay, so there you go. Speaking of closers, we got a sleeper closer for you. Now, Andy talked about this guy, and I did some homework on him. Now, Joe Jimenez is the closer in Detroit, but they don't like him, and they'll probably trade him if he pitches well. So keep in mind, write this name down, Vladimir Putin. Wait a second, Vladimir Pinto, not Putin. He's a different guy. He is an underrated, under-the-radar pitching prospect for the Detroit Tigers who can blow up the Raider gun with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, 100, and he throws it for strikes. Vladimir Pinto. Has anybody ever heard in the chat room of Vladimir Pinto? I called him Putin on the air on Sirius Radio because I never heard of Vladimir Pinto. But who heard of him? I don't know. Imagine being right? Yeah, like Joel Zamaya playing with Xbox or whatever he was doing. Could you imagine? Joe from Staten Island, could you imagine being married to a lady who knows Vladimir Pinto? I mean, that's obscene, right? Is Joel coming back today? Somebody find out what's going on. We got a schedule of it's unbelievable. All right, I used to drive a Pinto. Yeah, me too. I had a Pinto Fiat, 190,000 miles on my Pinto. Anyway, Vladimir Pinto is a guy that you got to keep your eyes on. Okay, And let's see, he threw the ball